Thanks, everybody. So I want you to think of the following. You're at home watching the news, and on comes another disaster, a flood, an earthquake, or something traumatic to people. And you see these wonderful first responders giving of their lives, their time, for people they don't know, maybe never will know again. I don't know about you, but I watch that and I think, oh, I would really love to be there helping them out and doing what I can. Then I realize I have no skills that they could possibly use. Ask my wife, I am a klutz and clumsy. I trip over everything in the house. I'd probably hurt somebody. And just like most of you, the sight of blood, not exactly high on my list of things to do. But this is not about what you can't do. This is going to be about what you can do. This is a talk about what you can do to give back to people, and you don't have to wait for a natural disaster. This is something you can do tomorrow. So let me talk about what that means. I'm going to use a context of something you're pretty familiar with, the work-life balance idea. We all know what that means. Basically, you spend about a third of your life at work, and you hope that you balance it off with social and family and so on. But we all know what happens. Deadlines, papers and essays due at final exam week, whatever it might be. And the work kind of tilts a little bit off, and now it's mostly the work side, and you got to get back in balance. And if you end up in a place where the work balance is really always off towards work, you even begin looking for another job. Well, I'm going to change that model a little bit. What I'm going to say to you is I want you to do what you do at work and let it slide over the scale and actually influence your life in a positive way. Literally make your life more fulfilling by what you do at work. So I'm going to talk about me for just a couple of minutes. Many years ago, more than I care to count, my first full-time job was a high school teacher at a Catholic school. And my wife was also teaching there. So our combined salaries were $23,000 a year. Now, my son was already a year and a half old. My wife was pregnant with our daughter. It wasn't working financially. I was working 3 jobs. So I knew, as much as I enjoyed teaching, I had to do something in the business world. So I took my bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy and 0 work experience resume and hit the streets. I got lucky. I actually got a job. And it paid $20,000 a year. And after the first year, they gave me a raise, $25,000 a year. So in 1 year, I was making more than my wife and I were combined, and we were paying the bills. And for 35 years, I kept working and paying the bills. But I always knew something was missing. I missed teaching. I enjoyed it so much in the high school, and I knew it was something I always wanted to do. In fact, it came true to me a couple of years after I left the school. They invited me back for a career day. And I was sitting at lunch with some of my former teaching colleagues, and they were talking about what they were doing with the students and the activities and so on. I literally started to cry. I missed it so much. So I made a decision that very day. I wanted to teach again. Now, I didn't want to do high school. I was pretty satisfied with that. I wanted to teach in college, so I did some research and figured out, well, got to get a master's degree. So put some money aside and made that happen. And then I started applying, and thankfully I was able to find an adjunct position. I taught 1 class. I was still working full-time, but I was teaching a class in a college. It was great. Then I started teaching a couple other schools, and it was really enjoyable. Then I got a call from a friend of mine who worked at this little university in Rhode Island called Bryant. He said, Rob, they need someone to teach a project management course. The person who's supposed to teach it left. They need someone really fast. Can you do it? I said, well, I know where Bryant is. I used to work across the street, so yeah, I'll give it a try. That was about 6.5 years ago. I was an adjunct for a year and a half, and then Bryant hired me as a full-timer. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. You've all heard the expression, when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I haven't worked a single day at Bryant yet. It's all in my heart. And reason is for 3 very important things. Number 1 is the teachers who welcomed me as a peer. I don't have a doctorate. I just have a lot of experience. And they welcomed me in just as part of their family. And the administration and staff who do so much to support us. And most importantly, the students, some of them are with us today, who honor me by taking my classes, in some cases 4 and 5 times. It's an amazing feeling. And it's given me something that I feel very strongly about that I want to share, and then I'll move on to you. For 35 years, I did what I had to do. For the rest of my career, I get to do what I want to do. So what about you? How about your turn? Well, the reason I enjoy this so much is I bring to the table what I didn't work. I teach what I did. That's what I want you to do. You can do this. You can give back because you already know what these kids and adults, because I teach all levels, need. And I'm going to tell you 4 ways that you can actually do this, starting immediately. Okay? Number 1, the comfort zone, teaching. It's an amazing thing. And yes, I've got a master's, I teach in college, but there's all kinds of opportunities to teach. Elementary, high school, college, adult ed. And you know what's amazing? They thirst for what you already know. You just have to bring it to the table. I want to tell you one more story that will kind of tell you how important this is. The very first night, absolutely, the first class I taught as an adjunct ever, after class, a lovely young lady sitting in the front row came up to me and said, "Professor, would you have time to talk to me about my career?" I was blown away. I'd been a manager on and off for 35 years, and it never had that feeling of like actually touching someone in a way on the first day that said, "Yes, I want you to help me with my future." That's what a teacher does every single day. Okay, teaching's a commitment. Papers and grading and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's not quite right, but I can still get you in the classroom. Number 2, we teachers love to bring people from the field, from the business world, into our classrooms as guest speakers or panel discussion leaders, and be able to talk that way to our students. One time, maybe once or twice a semester. You don't have to do any prep. You literally come and tell us what you already know. And yes, people come in nervous. How are they going to react? The kids, the adult ed, whatever it's going to be. Well, I'll tell you something. Once they start talking and the kids or the students start responding, you see their back straighten out. You see their head stand up straight. It's like they get so much out of it that the last thing they say to me when they leave, "Rob, when can I do this again?" Number 3, and this is kind of my second favorite, right below teaching. I made a mistake in my career. I never found myself a mentor. Someone I could go to that's not my manager, someone I could talk to about anything, work or not work related. I was a mentor to a number of people, but I felt very strongly about the fact that I missed out. So in my classes, I tell my students, if you want a mentor, you let me know, and I'll find one for you. I want you to be that. I want you to consider being a mentor. A one-on-one relationship with a student, with an adult, doesn't matter. Juniors and seniors in the room. There are freshmen and sophomores who could use some help. It doesn't have to be a long-term thing, but it might develop into that. Workers in the room. Someone new to your company who doesn't quite know how to do something. Help them out. It might develop into something even better. Imagine every day at work doing something to help someone else. Talk about bringing that balance together. Number 4 is a little less personal, but just as important. We teachers can do amazing things in the classroom. We can give examples, we can quote works, we can do all kinds of things, but there's one thing we cannot do. We cannot do the same thing as a student working at your company. We can't emulate what they would do in the workplace. So I'm looking at all of you and asking if you and your company would be willing to open your doors. We would love to give you an intern. Internship is an interesting character because it's one of those classic win-wins. The student obviously benefits. They get to apply what they learn every day in the real world. They get to see what that's like. They get to experience what day-to-day working is about. It's great. But you know what's really amazing is how much of a win it is for the company. You get an enthusiastic, young, well-trained person who's ready to do anything to impress, who's willing to do whatever you ask them to do. And sometimes You as a company, find your next new employee. I mentor a number of students who are interns. And my best day at Bryant, I've had a lot of them, but my best day is when my interns comes to me and says, "Professor, guess what? I just got a job offer from the company I was interning with." Talk about they could walk on the pond. They are in seventh heaven. It's awesome. Okay, now, I'm a teacher. I told you that. So you will now have an assignment. You have 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you have to convince yourself that you already have what other people need. Your knowledge, your experience, your work ethic, everything you currently do in your life, whether you're a student, worker, retired, it doesn't matter. You already have it. Number 2, believe me when I say there are people out there who thirst for what you have. They want it. They need it. They will be open to it. Number 3, the tough assignment. Make it happen. Approach someone. Contact the school. Say you're ready to give. It is the most amazing thing. It doesn't just go in one direction. It's truly a win-win for everybody. The person or people you work with win, and you do too. You close that work-life balance by basically letting work enhance your life. Give back. Thank you.